My trip to Algonquin had me hiking the Western Uplands Trail. This unique trail system allows you to tailor your distance with 3 loops that build upon each other, ranging from 32 kilometers to 88 kilometers. I chose to do the 3 loops. After checking in at the Westgate access point, I entered the park and traveled 10.7 kilometers my first day to Thunder Lake. So I'm on Algonquin Park, and I've got a 5-day trip ahead of me, and I only got about 10 kilometers of hiking today, and so packing a little bit heavy. Got about 35 pounds of gear on my back, mainly a lot of that being camera gear. I was hoping to get some good fall colors in, but I'm a couple weeks late for the real deciduous trees. A lot of that leaf has already fallen, so I still might get lucky with some tamaracks, and again, we'll see how this goes. I haven't done backpacking in quite a while, and this is probably the longest distance backpacking trip I've done. But we're in beautiful Algonquin Park, and this is my first time in the park. So, still got a little bit of color on some of the trees, and I'm coming to grips with the pack. I think I've got it adjusted. I've actually had to adjust it a couple of times, but I'm relishing the view. And here we are, into some of the nice yellows I was expecting to see, or hoping to see. It's very quiet. Did meet a few other hikers coming up the trail. Inadvertently caught one on camera. He seemed to be okay with it, but most people seem to take the opposite direction that I'm taking. Usually come out this way and I'm going in, so maybe it'll be like that for the whole trip. Who knows? Finally, that sun's coming out. It's just about 11:30 in the morning now. Only a few kilometers into the trail. And you gotta watch out because the leaves cover these rocks. And it's really easy to just stumble across them not seeing them. Just at Usco Lake, and it's about 11:30. I've been up since 6 a.m. driving a couple hours into the park, and I'm about 4.5 kilometers in trail right now. Got another 6 kilometers to go before I hit my campsite, so not too bad. A lot more uphills than I was anticipating, but that's how it usually goes. This is a really pretty cycle. I'm aiming my homemade bars. These are 90 grams and 500 calories apiece. They worked out pretty good on the canoe trips. Just taking a little break. So I've got another 2 kilometers to my trail. And a lot of uphill. Just about to go downhill. Seeing a lot of people on this section of the trail, but it is Sunday afternoon. A lot of people are hiking out for the day, so I guess it makes sense. They're all coming the other way. Maybe everyone knows something I don't about the direction to go in this trail. We're at Ramona Lake. And 1.8 kilometers to Thunder Lake. So at Ramona is the branch to the first loop, and we're following the second loop, going straight north. Alright, we made it to Thunder Lake. This is the camp lake. I still got to get around the other side somewhere for a campsite. But we are here. This is the first campsite on Thunder. I think I'm going to move on to the next one just because this one's right on the trail, but it is a nice site, close access to the lake. Well, let's see what the second site is like. This one's the second site. It's off the side trail. It's much more private. Seems to be a bag over there. I don't know if it's occupied. It's the one I want to call home. Oh, I think it's just a tarp. Someone left a tarp in a grate. Got a view of Thunder Lake. And I'm super anxious to get this pack off my back. Well, that was just the second time setting up the tent. Probably not the most efficient, but the duplexes are really easy to set up. Pitch is nice. A nice flat spot. Good tent. Okay, fresh habanero going into chili. I don't usually get to bring fresh peppers, but these were grown by my son-in-law, and the habaneros are really quite beautiful. So, full pod is going into the chili. So that habanero made it hot. I'm going to be heated from the inside tonight. Maybe half a habanero for a pot of chili next time. It's 6 o'clock, and we're losing light and heat pretty quick. This is sun fell down on the other side of the lake behind trees already. Thunder Lake. It's very quiet here. Day 2, I left my campsite at Thunder Lake and walked 10.2 kilometers to Loft Lake, transitioning from Loop 2 to Loop 3 in the process. Well, it's morning 1, and 7:30 right now. A little bit of a late start. Gonna grab some breakfast and coffee, start packing up. So this is my breakfast. It's basically protein powder, some heavy cream powder, and a little bit of cocoa for sweetener. So this is about 250 calories, and some coffee. And then last but not least, BioSteel. These are basically, it's a powdered electrolyte solution without calories, so it's basically Gatorade without calories. But we found on the canoe trips that if you can guzzle down one of these in the morning, they really give you a lot more energy than just water. Okay, it's just before 9 a.m. Campsite's all packed up, and I'm off to Loft Lake. Just off the trail, maybe half a kilometer in, and walking along this nice little ridge. Lots of color to the left of me. It's a campsite just off of Lupus Lake en route. I'm going all the way to Loft Lake. And like the name says, there's lots of climbing. Loft's usually on top of things. Kind of wish I was going to sub-basement lake. Still a little bit of fog rising off that water. Had to go off trail into these frosted weeds for a bit. Quite amazing. And with the sun coming off and the rays, it's a really cool field. Making progress. Some of the ridges are a little bit tough. Tough for somebody who doesn't have trail legs. But it's going okay. 45. Just took a little break to delayer and do a little GPS check. So I walked 4.5 kilometers. It's not bad, and I got about another 6.5 kilometers to hit the campsite. So I don't want to get there too early, otherwise gonna be spending the whole day there. But it's going pretty good. Just at the ridge adjacent to Susan Lake, I believe. So once I get down to Susan Lake, I'll be at the halfway point for the day. Okay, here we are, Susan Lake. I'm at Portage Point on Susan Lake. It's 11:30. Hit my 11,000 steps and I'm halfway done for the day. So this seemed like a great spot to replenish the water bottle with the Sawyer Squeeze, eat my lunch bar, and then continue on. We're on Rainbow Lake, just sitting at the campsite. So I've got 2 kilometers left. This is actually kind of a terrible campsite. I'll show you the layout in a moment when I go back up there, but the access to the water is pretty poor, and you're in this swampy mess to get access to the water. So I'm gonna have to sort of squeeze some of this nasty stuff, shedding its needles. So we're at the junction between the second loop and the third loop, and we are going to make our way starting the third loop. Okay, so we're at our destination lake, Loft Lake. Just got to check out the campsites and find one. So I think this is going to be the campsite. Not the greatest campsite on earth. There's a little tent pad right there, but the access to the lake is good. And I'm just kind of looking at where sunset's going to be, so sort of out that way. So I'm thinking that it's going to be a prettier location for a little bit of photography. Just replacing the batteries on the GoPro and set up the campsite here on Loft. Organizing. I don't know, I might even take a little nap, who knows. So I took a little walk looking for firewood and ended up down the other campsite. And when I got to it, it was like, holy cow, this is orders of magnitude better than the campsite I had. So I rough packed everything and moved the campsite. This is just so much nicer. A lot more wide open and pretty good view of the lakeside and the beach. And look at this. Wow. So this is much nicer. We're gonna do another chili pepper. This one, I think it's a Hungarian chili, again from my son-in-law's garden. Not as hot as the habanero, And that might be a good thing, because the last time, it was a little bit spicy. So I got one more habanero, and I think when I do the habanero again, I might just do half a habanero instead of a full habanero. These guys are more flash heat and not quite as potent as a habanero, so I could smell it, see how it is. And on the menu tonight is curried lentils and beef. Again, this is a bit of an experimental meal. Trying it out, and you can see those chili peppers on top there. I just threw them in the bag until my water boils. These are really good. I'm gonna make this for canoeing camp trips. It was a little bit strong when I first made it before dehydrating, and now that it's kind of diluted a bit, it's just perfect. So I know it's supposed to rain tonight, and I'm not worried about the duplex tent. It's fully waterproof. But I want to put a tarp up just so I have a little area to stage tomorrow when I get up. Everything's going to be soaking wet, and at least I'll be able to pack in front of my tent and hopefully stay a little bit dry, get my rain gear on and everything else. That's the plan. Not 100% sure if we'll have a fire tomorrow night. Basically start raining at about 3 a.m. and it's supposed to continue raining all day, potentially for the next 3 days. Well, nobody lied when they said it was going to rain all night. It started at about 3, just like predicted. And it is really windy and pretty nasty out there. It's about 8 a.m. All packed up. Got the DSLR in the bag just because there's so much rain. And I'm going to head off. Day 3 was the toughest of the trip. 18 kilometers beginning from Loft Lake all the way to the top of the third loop at Islet Lake. Bye-bye Loft Lake. Hello, rainy day. Really pretty beaver pond area. Well, I promised I wasn't going to do this. I wasn't going to walk with the camera facing in front of me. The shaky cam business. I wanted to set up my tripod more, but I need my poles. The poles are a tremendous hike, and the tripod is, for the most part, sitting in my backpack pocket. And I'm really a little too lazy to pull off my pack every time I want to set up a shot. This is a precarious bridge. Very slippery. I see a lot of people crossing this beaver dam. Right, trails on that side. Ooh, that beaver dam's deep. I wasn't the idiot holding the camera. I just had both my poles. This would be a lot easier. All in the name of documentaries. There we go. Getting close to Brown Lake, I think. Now the trail is pretty much stream. I've kind of my feet are so wet that it's not making too much of a difference now. More boardwalk. This stuff is really slippery. It's nice and flat, but very slippery. Well, it seemed like a good place to stop after all. And I need some water. A little ironic, as wet as it is, and I need to buy bottled or filter water. This is the Brown Lake campsite. It's a very pretty campsite, right on the trail though. One of many hurdles. Sure is pretty though. Well, I think we got about 2.5 kilometers to the next point, next little lake. I forget its name. Walking the ridge right here. Get to camp. I just get to camp and I get the tiniest little flicker of sunshine happening. Not complaining about that. Oh, that feels good. Heat. I'm here on Islet. I'm not gonna lie, this was a really tough day. the weather and the distance. My GPS had me logged at 18 kilometers, but the map segments have it at 16 and a half. But yeah, it's a long walk, and I'm tired, cold, and wet. I feel like one of those angry cat memes right now. It's morning, day 3. Yeah, it took till about 7:30 before sun started to come out. It's a brisk cold. It's 41 degrees Fahrenheit, and the wind is blowing pretty hard. I'm just packing up camp, trying to stuff my duplex back into a compression sack here. Liquid gold. Day 4 was a straight shot south, transitioning from the third to the second loop and ending at Clara Lake, a total of 15 kilometers. And we're back on the trail. 7 kilometers to my next lake, Stammer Lake. This is quite pretty here. Trail hugs along the edge of Islet Lake. It's a nice way to start off the morning. Finally reached the end of Islet Lake, and we're gonna push off, keep going south. So we already hit the very top of the third loop with Islet. We're making our way home now. At least it's flat. That's the bottom end of Islet. And we've got a really nice wetland out here. And some mucky stuff to get through. No hope of keeping the feet dry through this. Oh well, catch you on the other side. Well, trail goes up that. It's a pretty little section. Just a little bit of color. Those beech trees, the smaller ones hanging on. No more reds. This would have been a spectacular forest about 3 weeks ago when the maples were still around. It's so much nicer hiking without the constant rain. Just being able to keep my body warmth so much easier. I've been walking for 2 hours now. It's 10 o'clock. and hit about 5 kilometers, maybe a little bit more. So maybe 6 or 7 at 11,000 steps. So getting close to the halfway mark, and I'm going to take a break and delayer before getting back on the trail. We're taking a look at Stammer Lake, and I got this pegged as a scenic lookout, but all the overlooks are full of trees. We're pretty high up. Coming down off a ridge. Not sure how steep this is going to get. Looks steep. Aaron and Bennett probably want to take a mountain bike down this. It's cool. Shutter Lake. There's actually a little bit of sun shining. I actually put the DSLR away because it started to rain. And now we got some sun. Pincher Lake. Off in the distance there, a couple of campsites. We're going to keep moving until we hit our destination lake, which is Clara. About another 1.5 kilometers or so. I'm at the last campsite on Pincher. You can see end of the lakes right there. And I'm taking a break. I'm going to pull up my DSLR since it doesn't look like it's raining. And yeah, last little leg to Clara. Note what happens when you try to use a smart water bottle as a hot water bottle. Not a great idea. Didn't burn. I thought the boiling water was cooled off enough last night. It did warm my feet. Next time, bring an Nalgene, I guess. We're at the transition to second loop. That's the top end of the second loop off of Pincher Lake, and we're on our way home. Well, no trip is complete without a hailstorm. Fortunately, they're tiny little guys. That's a pretty funky bridge. Just on the other side of Castle Lake. Just at the top end of Clara Pond. This is where I'll be camping for the night. At the Clara Lake campsite, and I hung up a tarp just because we're getting some rain here, and this is like a little staging ground. I'm sitting on my chair just relaxing before I set up camp proper. It was a pretty good day. So we're at almost 62 kilometers for our trip total. It's a little stream right below Clara Lake Camp. Alright, when it's really wet like this, you need to do a split wood fire, so a lot of wood prep to get that fire going. That stuff, I don't know, might be a little bit too nasty. Screw the fire steel. I'm using thick of my bick. It's day 5. Woke up to rain, but it's stopped now at least. And we're going to be leaving Clara Lake. I'm all packed up, ready to go. On day 5, we moved from Clara Lake to Little Hardy's, again transitioning from the second loop back to the first loop, a total of 14 kilometers. It's a long ridge going down. Probably don't get that perspective. But what goes down usually must come up on these trails. Nice little beaver pond. Sure is pretty. For scale. Okay, so by my reckoning we've got about 6.1 kilometers to the campsite. This seemed as good a place as any to take a little break. Had my coffee and a little bar and just hanging around this stream, trying to warm up with this coffee that's helping. missed out on the 25 seconds of sun. By the time I pulled out my camera, the sun was gone. Such is how it goes. Still a few kilometers away from Maggie Lake. Well, we'll transition into the first loop. Okay, we're at Maggie Lake and we're now transitioning from yellow to blue back on the first loop. Actually got a little bit of sun and it disappeared just like that. Well, that was our sun. On a wetland prior to Maggie Lake, and it's not doing it so much anymore. My little boardwalk was sinking when I was walking on it. There we go. Well, no keeping the feet dry in this. It's not like they haven't been wet since this morning. I guess this is better than slogging it through a marsh, maybe. I don't know. I am shin deep in the water right now. Oh well, let's look at this view. It's better than my feet. Steep Rise Lake. It seemed to take forever to get around Maggie. Overlooking Steep Rise Lake. It's probably, I don't know, 100 meters down to the lake. Straight little cliff. You never get a height perspective on cameras. Let's walk over to the cliff. Oh, here I am at my destination lake. Last campsite for this trip, Little Hardy's, and we'll see what the campsite's like. All packed up from Little Hardy, and we're off. About 10 kilometers to the car park. Day 6 was the last day of the trip, making our way through Little Hardy's to Leech, around Maple Leaf, and back to the access point. A total of 10 kilometers. So I'm about 4 kilometers to the car park. Just overall impressions, it was a great trail. It was cold. I wish it wasn't raining so much on the trip, but can't really help that. In terms of the 3 loops, I think the 3 loops is a really cool idea. You basically can plan your trip, a 30, 50, or 80 kilometer trip, and they offer different viewpoints. My sort of impressions are the second loop is probably the prettiest in terms of different rock formations and the number of streams that you encounter. The north loop has got its own qualities, and of course if you want to make that long distance you need to do the third loop. But there's definitely some really good scenery between Brown Lake and Islet Lake of the third. And the first loop I don't know, it's pretty bland in comparison. There's a couple of streams, you know, few rock formations, not too many lakes. It's mostly just sort of this kind of path. So I would suggest if you're coming out for photographic opportunities, it definitely makes it worthwhile to bite the bullet, take a 4-day trip and do the second loop. And then if you want to do the, you know, 6-7 days, or if you're one of those crazy thru hikers, maybe you'll do it in 4 days, do the third loop. But yeah, it's a really interesting trail system. On my ass. Well, could have been worse. At least if you're gonna fall down, you might as well fall down at a nice spot. Well, I'm at the beginning of my loop. So I've got 300-meter hike back to the truck, and that's it for the trail. 170,000 steps later. Whew. Well, there you go, guys. That was the Western Uplands Trail, at least how I experienced it. I thought it was an amazing experience, and for my first in Algonquin, it's a memory that will last a lifetime. I think also doing this as a solo trail was a really cool exercise, particularly of this duration. I hope you enjoyed, and thanks for watching. KGD.